This is Mac OS Ken.
Analysts jot notes ahead of Apple's earnings. The UK and India lean into Apple and Google, and a couple of notable lawsuits against Apple. It is Friday, the 24th of January, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Not since Jefferies analyst Edison Lee dropped his 12-month price target on Apple shares from $212.92 to $200.75 has a price reduction seemed so silly. I know that was only a couple of days ago, but still. Apple 3.0 ran a piece on a recent note from Barclays that had that firm dropping its price target on Apple shares by $1. Pluses for the Cupertino company include services revenue and strong sales for the Mac. While the firm says those will help offset anticipated weakness in iPhone sales, they won't make up for that entirely. Working against Apple are lower iPhone 16 builds, according to the firm, adverse currency impacts, and limited excitement around the anticipated fourth-generation iPhone SE. Barclays has an underweight rating on Apple shares. They used this week's note to lower their price target on the shares from $184 to $183. That is a 12-month price target. Let's check back in a year. With all of this week's negativity, news of a price target rise for Apple. The same Apple 3.0 piece had Raymond James raising its price target on Apple on Monday to $250. The firm has a buy rating on the company's stock. Though he's not moving his firm's needle at all, Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring is out with a note on Apple ahead of next week's earnings report. Apple Insider went deep on that, but don't worry, I'm not gonna. Like a year ago, says the piece, Woodring is expecting a street beat, but lower than expected second quarter revenue predictions. Woodring maintains an overweight rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $273. A few more notes like this are likely to float through between now and next Thursday. That is when Apple will release earnings for the recently ended holiday quarter. Apple's Q1 fiscal year 25 numbers will hit after the close of trading on the 30th of January. Look for that press release around 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Then at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Apple execs, including new CFO Kevin Parekh, will talk about last quarter and offer color on what's ahead. You can hear the call as it happens on Apple's site. It will be made available as a podcast soon after, and will recap points of interest right here 1 week from today. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority is investigating Apple and Google. It's basically the same investigation being run by half the countries on the planet and considered by the other half, it seems, looking into developer terms set by the companies and whether they've stifled competition. iDownload says the investigation could go on as long as 9 months, though the story, well, that will outlast us all. India is reportedly leaning on Apple and Google to pre-install government apps in iOS and Android. Seeking Alpha highlights a Bloomberg report saying last month, the Indian Technology Ministry called executives from Apple, Google, and other smartphone makers to request that they provide Indians direct access to the government's apps. That is according to secret people. Secret people. From the people who brought you people. The report's a bit confusing, actually. While Seeking Alpha calls the Indian government offering an app store, another piece I read refers to it as an app suite. Either way, Google is said to be pushing back on the move, while Apple is not likely to agree, according to the piece. Which is fine, as long as they have the freedom to disagree. The report says government officials talked about the possibility of a policy mandate or using legal measures to get Apple and Google to adhere. In the meantime, all of the apps in the suite are available as standalone downloads in both Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store. Neither Apple nor Google offered comment for the Bloomberg report. News of a couple of class action lawsuits in the works taking aim at Apple. Focusing first outside the company, a piece from Mac Rumors has news of a suit filed this week in California that accuses Apple of false advertising and violating various consumer laws by failing to disclose that some Apple Watch bands contain toxic materials. The complaint says, Apple says the watch is designed to support and further human health and wellness, is environmentally sustainable, and is suitable for everyday use and wear. But plaintiffs point to a recent study that reportedly found some smartwatch bands contain high levels of so-called forever chemicals. Mac Rumor says those can be absorbed through the skin and can lead to health problems. Hey, speaking of problems, it's unclear whether Apple Watch bands actually have those chemicals. According to the piece, while the study cited did test a number of wearables, including Apple Watch, it didn't say that Apple Watch bands had the chemicals in question. But the suit says elevated levels of the chemicals were present in the expensive category of smartwatch bands. And if there's one thing Apple is, it's expensive. A judge still has to decide whether to allow the class action lawsuit to proceed, according to Mac Rumors. No word in the report on when that might happen. Shifting focus to inside Apple, a piece from 9 to 5 Mac has the Cupertino company standing accused of sexual discrimination. According to the report, a judge has ruled that there is a reasonable possibility that Apple illegally paid women less than men, letting a class action lawsuit filed on behalf of 12,000 current and former female employees move forward. While Apple acknowledges some salary discrepancies, it's argued that those are a reflection of individual circumstances, not a failure to meet its legal requirements for equal pay under the California Equal Pay Act. Based on the individual versus group reasoning, the company wanted the case bounced. Thing is, individuals say there was a pattern, which makes it less individual, more systemic. Specifically, Apple is accused of asking for existing salaries and salary expectations during recruitment, which could serve to simply perpetuate pay discrepancies, biased employee appraisals, with Apple allegedly rewarding men and penalizing women for the same behaviors, and biased talent reviews, which are said to have resulted in men and women of equal talent being awarded unequal pay. While Apple did not respond to 9 to 5 Mac's request for comment, the company has said previously that it does not ask for salary history during the recruiting process. Yeah, okay, but as 9 to 5 Mac notes, previously it did. While the company may be on the straight and narrow now, it may still have to pay for how it paid in the past. No word in the piece on next steps in the case. Add another path to Google's mixed reality ventures. Just one day after Samsung announced its Apple Vision Pro lookalike headset, co-developed with Google and running Google's Android XR operating system, TechCrunch has Google making a hardware investment of its own. According to the piece, Google has agreed to acquire part of HTC's extended reality or XR business for $250 million, expanding its push into virtual and augmented reality hardware following the recent launch of its Android XR platform. The deal will see some of the HTC Vive engineering team shifting to Google. The search giant will also get non-exclusive rights to some of HTC's intellectual property, which HTC will still get to use and develop. Google said the acquisition will accelerate Android XR platform development across headsets and glasses, according to the report. And finally today, Walmart would apparently like to remind you of its own greed and obstinance, or something. A piece from Mac Rumors had the superseller, well, I was going to say had the superseller explaining why it doesn't take Apple Pay and other NFC payment options. Doesn't really explain why, though. Just reiterates that it don't and it won't. According to the chain statement, we do not accept NFC and instead have implemented convenient solutions such as Walmart Pay that provide our customers easy, touchless payments on any smartphone. We have also invested in innovative technologies that go beyond payments such as Scan and Go, which allows Sam's Club and Walmart Plus members to bypass the checkout altogether, providing a truly touchless shopping experience. See? Not a why in sight. As of 2022, Apple Pay was accepted at more than 90% of U.S. retailers, according to Mac Rumors. A decade after its introduction, the piece says Walmart is one of the only major retailers in the U.S. not taking Apple Pay. This week on the checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac, we're talking about family passwords. What are they? Why are they important? What should you consider when considering one? All of that plus, we'll revisit the toll road smishing scams and why they are so prevalent these days. That's all on checklist number 408. Find it at securemac.com/checklist or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.